Hi Divas, and welcome to Magnifique, your favorite jewelry insights podcast. I'm your host, Gabrielle, and today we talk about all things Tiffany Co. But first, Happy New Year. Real quick, let's hear those New Year's resolutions. Sound them off. Mine is to be the best version of myself, and I already am, so no work needing to be done. So, Tiffany & Co. The story of Tiffany & Co. is one that heavily leans into the American dream. With a little grit and hard work, you too can have it all. You too can own a monopoly on gems. While in theory, Tiffany & Co. started from nothing and became a worldwide sensation, many people are behind the operation, pouring their souls into each and every piece of work that goes into Tiffany products. The ones you know and love have a lot of hard work and blood, sweat, and tears, blood literally, in the diamonds. But can I be honest, we're not going to be talking about the blood diamonds today. I would love to dig deeper into that in another episode. But today we'll discuss the names of the Tiffany game. We'll explore Charles Tiffany himself, world-recognized gemologist George F. Kuntz, as well as each of their highly esteemed jewelry designers. Along the way, we'll be introduced to celebrities and various controversies, but Tiffany's is a people-forward brand, so let's get into the people. I chose this topic because, truthfully, I knew nothing about Tiffany & Co., except for the blue box and a scene that's been engraved in my brain from reality TV. Perhaps you've heard of the show Vanderpump Rules? Perhaps. In the show, there's a young lad who comes from a very rich family who eventually comes down on his luck. But there's a scene with the dude and his mother, and they're just talking about how they came down on their luck. And in an argument, the mom yells, "You took your first steps in a freaking Tiffany's." She used the F word, but we're 2 minutes in, and I don't feel like doing that, so I won't. You took your first steps in an effing Tiffany's, and that really resonated with me in that I have no relation there, but that's all she wrote. So I present to you today. So everything I present to you today is news to me that actually impacted me in a way I've never expected. So Charles Louis Tiffany. Charles Louis Tiffany was born in Killingly, Connecticut, an Aquarius sun with a birth date of February 15th, 1812. He comes from family money, with his father being a prosperous textile manufacturer. And at the ripe age of 25, Charles Louis decides he wants to make something of himself. So he and his bestie, John B. Young, moved to the big city, NYC, and open up a stationery and fancy goods store. This was funded by a small loan of $1,000 from Tiffany's father. The first few days of the store were rough. No sugarcoating it. They made a solid $4.98 on the first day. Granted, that does come out to be $150 today. Still not rocking with it. The two of them housed very little money or knowledge of business, but they did have vibes and skills. And with these vibes and skills, Charles Tiffany was able to talk his way into purchasing coveted goods directly from ships that were returning to New York from foreign ports. These coveted goods included items like Chinese porcelain or the latest French accessories. From the jump, Mr. Tiffany understood the importance of publicity, and this led him a very long way in his career. Speaking of people skills, I have been trying to hone my people skills as well. So I've started reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I've heard that book is both a cry for help and also life-changing. That being said, I fear I have no choice but to read it cover to cover. And to be quite honest with you, I got it about a month ago, and I'm 16 pages in, so it's not really influencing me at all in the slightest, but new year, new me, right? So I'll get back to it. Don't worry about me. Worry about yourself. So Charles Tiffany built his company into the first institution of American luxury. Without him, who knows where luxury would be today? He'd become known as the King of Diamonds due to his sheer wealth in the gemstone repertoire. His son and heir to the business, Louis Comfort Tiffany. I didn't do my due diligence. Maybe it's Louis. But for here on out, he's going to be Tiffany. He was appointed design director at the death of his father in 1902. So post Charles Tiffany death, he left an estate worth $35 million. Today it'd be nearly $1 billion. No biggie. But his most everlasting achievement is the founding of Tiffany Co. So that is our boy, Charles Lewis. Let's talk about the company finding its stride, and then we'll talk about some other big names. So anyway, the variety store was surviving, but not yet thriving. In 1841, the businessman recruited another partner, J.L. Ellis, after which luck began to favor the trio quite nicely. Nothing says luck and success quite like a trio of generationally wealthy white men. We also saw the debut of the first direct mail catalog, dubbed the Blue Book Collection. This allowed people from all over the world, all over the United States at the time. It was during the 1840s that the company found solace in the fall of the Louis Philippe's regime in France. This led French aristocrats to flee the political turmoil, and they sold their diamonds in exchange for quick cash to fuel their fleet. Who lucked out in this instance? Charles Louis Tiffany, because he saw this as a golden opportunity to buy and risk the profits of the fledgling enterprise on a cache of splendid diamonds. But he really saw an opportunity and took it, and that right there is capitalism at its finest. No, it's not. I'm just kind of talking at this point. The buying of all of these diamonds marks the incarnation of American luxury. It was in 1848 that the company poured most of its funds into importing the highest quality jewelry from Europe. So pre-1848, they weren't doing fine jewelry. They were doing costume jewelry, but they weren't doing jewelry. Throughout the 1850s, the company and Sir Charles Lewis saw a plethora of opportunities to build his legacy. The company purchased the partnership of a prominent silversmith, John C. Moore. It was during this partnership that the sterling silver 925 standard quality was set in place. The 925 standard refers to the quality of your silver. It means that the metal that you're wearing contains 92.5% pure silver and 7.5% mixed metal base. It's a British standard that was only brought to the United States by Charles Tiffany. So here we are, 1853. Charles Tiffany assumes total control of the company due to Young and Ellis both seeking retirement. And truly, their retirement is probably the best thing that could happen to Charles, because Charles moves to change the name to Tiffany & Company, later shortened to Tiffany & Co. Another happening in the 50s, in 1858 to be more clear, Charles Tiffany pulls another big one after the general laying of the Atlantic Telegraph cable. Charles Tiffany buys 20 miles of extra cable from key businessman Cyrus Westfield. He turned the cable into trinkets, charms, i.e. paperweights, canes, umbrellas, handles even. But this really saw a boom in the business because once they were available, the crowds lined up. And the crowds were so rowdy that the police had to intervene and do some crowd control in the 1850s. A Paris World Fair loves to see Charles Tiffany coming. In 1867, the company received an award of merit for silver hardware. I wrote hollowware. I don't know if I meant that. This was the first time that an American designer had yet been awarded with such honor by a foreign jury. In 1878, Paris World's Fair again, Charles Tiffany receives an award for excellence in quality of silver and jewelry. Then again, in 1900, Tiffany was appointed as the Royal jeweler for the crowned heads of Europe, the Ottoman Emperor, and Russian czars. Having said that, I did do a little Google search of who is the royal jeweler for most crowned heads today, and that is Cartier. Don't know what happened there, but Cartier is the premier royal jeweler now. Royal jeweler is really messing me up. I feel like I'm in 30 Rock. I don't know if you guys have seen the running joke on 30 Rock, the royal juror. I feel like that. I cannot say royal jeweler. Okay, anyway, in addition to proper royals, Tiffany Co. would go on to work with American social royals like Jackie O, the Astors, among many other Gilded Age socialites. Okay, since we're talking about achievements, are you sitting for this one? Well, there's actually two that I'm going to tell you about. In 1885, Tiffany redesigned the U.S. seal, and Tiffany's also redesigned the Vince Lombardi trophy. For all my fellow girly pops, I'm so sorry, it's football. It's a Super Bowl medal, but this happened all the way in the future in 1966. Future, freaking 100 years later. Here's a fun and patriotic fact. Did you know that during the Civil War, Tiffany & Co. made swords for the Union forces? They also supplied flags, medals, surgical instruments, what have you. They were really just fighting for the Union. The year is 1879, when Tiffany & Co. bought the largest yellow diamond in the world, nicknaming it the Tiffany Diamond, setting him back a cool $18,000, which in today's dollars would go ahead and be about $14.28 million. This beauty sits at 287.42 carats as a rough stone, but then is cut down to 128.54 carat. What happened to the other 160 carat? Girl, I don't know. This gem was once sourced from Kimberley diamond mines in South Africa. Since its conception, only 4 people have ever worn it. Audrey Hepburn, Lady Gaga, and Beyonce. I know you're saying, Gabrielle, that's 3. I know, because everywhere I looked for the 4th person, I could not find it. So if you find it, let me know, and I can just do a little edit. But I read so many freaking articles and watched so many freaking videos. I could not, they were gatekeeping the 4th name. So Audrey Hepburn, Lady Gaga, and Beyonce. Okay, let's take a slight detour and talk about the man behind the Tiffany diamond. While Charles was the one to purchase it, George F. Kuntz put his blood, sweat, and tears into ensuring the yellow diamond was cut and shaped into the most optimal size, shape, and had the most appropriate number of facets. George Frederick Kuntz was born a Libra on September 29th, 1856, in the Big Apple, NYC. I must say, this company has decimated my concept of history. Why are these people living regular lives 200 years ago? Literally, what do you mean 200 years ago? That makes me so annoyed. That makes me so annoyed. It actually makes me mad, because what do you mean? Our normal lives are pretty much similar to their normal lives, aside from like daily dressing and formalities. Girl, get out of here. I can't do that. That's so annoying. George Kuntz has been a gem and mineral enthusiast his entire life. So much so that by his teens, he had amassed 4,000 some odd gem specimens, which he sold to the University of Minnesota for $400, $8,000 today. He meant business because he's quoted saying that the money wasn't as much of a factor, rather he just wanted to mark himself as a real gem collector. He did seek out a college education, though he didn't graduate, and found more success teaching himself about mineralogy by reading every piece available to him, in addition to his already proficient field research. And honestly, that's how I'm trying to be. That is how I am going about things as well. Just a coveted, self-taught fashion girly who's finding her way through mountains of articles and research for each subject. Just a girly trying to know everything. And for that, I really relate to you, George. He was called on by Tiffany & Co. to collaborate at just the age of 23. He toured the gem mines as well as cutting facilities, and and served as a special agent with the U.S. Geological Survey. George was entrusted to supervise the cutting of the Tiffany yellow diamond. He studied the 270-carat diamond for a year before determining size, shape, and number of facets. He chose for the gem to hold 82 facets, which is 24 more than traditional, for the purposes of maximizing the gem's brilliance. He proved himself so much throughout his tenure that at age 52, he was propelled to a VP position at Tiffany's. How he proved himself through the years is by changing the way retailers diversify their gem species. While most jewelers mainly focused on diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and emeralds, Kuntz was more interested in semi-precious gemstones. Think tourmaline, aquamarine, garnet, moonstone, the works. Kuntz was able to convince Charles Tiffany to purchase a green tourmaline specimen for an experimental collection. This collection outperformed the businessman's expectation, and as such, the world was introduced to the semi-precious colored gemstones. Kuntz was not only the man for Charles Tiffany and a world-traveling gem researcher, but he also took on personal clients to assemble their personal collections. Perhaps you've heard of old man J.P. Morgan. Old man, capitalist, billionaire buddy. Love him so much. I actually don't know too much about him. I just hear billionaire and say, ooh, whoops. George Kuntz has built many collections for Morgan, as he was Kuntz's best and most loyal client. The first collection comprised of over 1,000 specimens and won multiple golden awards at the 1889 Paris World's Fair. The second collection has been donated to the American Museum of Natural History in New York. I fear a Tiffany's tour around New York City is in my future, hopefully in my near future. Anyway, to show his appreciation to J.P. Morgan's loyalty, he sourced a rose gold variety of beryl from Madagascar, and he named the gem Morganite. Kuntz loved to name gems after those in his life, naming Kuntzonite after himself, which is a lilac pink variety of spodumene found in California. And okay, let me just speak my piece. It really annoys me that these really pretty gems have boy names. I'll say it. Pretty gems should not have boy names. How about that? How about that? How about nothing, actually? George Kuntz is a national treasure. He pioneered the way that the world wears and appreciates jewelry, and moreover, semi-precious gemstones. Without his contribution to the space, who's to say what gems we'd be rocking on our rings or in our bracelets? Really just, thank you, buddy. Buddy. I really appreciate George Kuntz. I think in the future, I might have a whole episode dedicated to just him and maybe the avenues of his little collection. Little, they were 1,000 specimens. They're not little. Anyway, during the turn of the 20th century, 1902 to be more specific, our beloved Charles Louis Tiffany passes away, leaving his son, Louis Comfort Tiffany, to take over as official design director. Design directors and collaborators truly turned Tiffany Co. into the company that we know and love today. I don't personally know, just due to not owning any Tiffany jewelry, but I do love what they got going on. So let's talk about John Schlumberger. He took the reins at Tiffany in 1956. Sorry, we're in the 1900s now. I keep thinking we're in 1800s because we just spent so much time there. Oh my gosh. Okay, so he took the reins in 1956, but before that, John Schlumberger was born in 1905 to a what? A prominent textile manufacturer. Booming business. In Alsace, France. Jean had a knack for drawing from a young age, but he was pushed to find a more profitable career in banking. He began to rebel in his 20s by moving to Paris to hone his creative impulses. Schlumberger first worked in a French couture house with Lucien Lelong, after which moving to a Parisian art publishing house. as he was severely drawn to and inspired by Parisian art culture. He loved to wander the streets of flea markets looking and adoring Victoriana relics and would create his jewelry after his discoveries. His first big break, major big break, was with Elsa Schiaparelli. She commissioned him to be a lead designer of buttons and costume jewelry. His catalog included inspiration from animals, shells, cherubs, fruits, and insects. He eventually made his way to NYC to open up his own shop when he met none other than chairman of the company, Walter Hoving, chairman of Tiffany Co, I should say. He started his partnership with his salon within the flagship Tiffany's location and made contributions like the Pylonel enamel. It was Schlumberger's signature jewelry style. He was also known for the affinity for 18-karat yellow gold in his design. You may have seen his famous bird on a rock design. He is most famous for it, I'd say. He brought a new perspective to jewelry designing, one of a more natural and loose artistic way, if you will. It pleased the crowd and kept them coming back for more. So thank you, John Schlumberger. He's unfortunately no longer with us, but he did pass in 1987, so it's been a minute. But thank you, Jean. I have been perusing the Tiffany & Co. website naturally for research purposes. I really do love the bird on a rock brooch. I think that is very classic, dare I say timeless, gorgeous. I really do love it, and I would buy it if I could afford it. With some overlap, our next designer left a descriptive mark of her own in the luxury jewelry space. Elsa Peretti was born in Italy, and she sought an education in Rome for interior design. From interior design, she went to fashion model in New York City, as well as Barcelona, but then ultimately turning to jewelry design. Her debut design was at George de Sant'Angelo show, and it was an instant success. She ended up joining Tiffany & Co. in 1974 with a jewelry case at the flagship store, and her contributions included that of the Tiffany Peretti bone cuff. You may have seen this on Miley Cyrus during the 2024 Grammys. Her designs are powerfully feminine and revolutionize the way that women wear and take pleasure in jewelry. In honor of her 25th work anniversary in 1999, Tiffany's established the Elsa Peretti Professorship in Jewelry Design at FIT in New York. And then in 2001, she was presented with an honorary doctorate of fine arts from FIT. Unfortunately, Miss Elsa Peretti died in 2021 at the age of 80, but her legacy will be remembered for generations. Like I said, I was doing field research on the Tiffany's website. I think I can confidently say that I prefer Elsa's designs over any of the other designers. I think they are very powerfully feminine, very dainty, but also very statement making, if that is the correct format of words. Like I said, she changed the way that women enjoy jewelry. So for that, I thank her endlessly. This next designer actually took me by surprise, mainly because I didn't know what was going on. I severely messed up my perception of time. A lot of the story messes up my perception of time clearly. But I'd like to talk about Miss Paloma Picasso. Born in 1949 to Pablo Picasso and Francois Gaillot, Paloma Picasso is definitely an artist's daughter. She first created necklaces for Folie Bergère, later seeking formal education in jewelry design. She was able to present her first collection to her good old pal, Yves Saint Laurent, to which he immediately commissioned her to design jewelry to complement his latest collection. She took a brief hiatus in 1973 when her father passed away, but shortly after, Tiffany design director John Loring invited Paloma to present a table setting for an exclusive collection. Due to this, she moves to NYC and immediately becomes known for her unique approach of colors, shapes, and gems. Her style is deemed aggressively chic. She receives a lot of inspiration from the graffiti of NYC. Her most notable piece of work is her 2013 olive leaf collection. It pays tribute to the olive trees around her home, as well as being a universal symbol for peace. She was awarded by the Fashion Group International in 1988 for her design contributions, and later the Hispanic Designers Incorporated presented her with its Moda Award for design excellence. Paloma Picasso is still with the company, with her latest collection incorporating custom-cut hexagon gemstones on rings, bracelets, pendants, you name it. 18-karat gold designs set with colored gemstones in varying species. Paloma Picasso's style is incredibly unique, and this is a Nepo baby that I can get behind. During my field research, of course, let's talk about my field research of www.tiffanyco.com. You can really see her playing with varying gemstones, and she loves that olive leaf collection. You can still see it in 2024. It is not going anywhere, and I love it. I love it so much. Let's talk about how they're staying relevant today. As mentioned, Tiffany Co. is a cultural icon. Take me as proof. I had never known anything about Tiffany until trekking on this venture, aside from being fine jewelry and the little blue box. I still knew that Tiffany's was something to aspire towards. Of course, that's an intentional marketing tactic, relating it with luxury and aspirations. Tiffany & Co. prides itself on staying in the culture sphere, with Alexander Arnold. Every time I talk about LVMH, I cannot see this man's name. I couldn't say his dad's name, and now I can't say his name. It's really just the last name. Alexander Arnold, son of LVMH Emperor Bernard Arnault. Someone get me into speech class. Perhaps you remember this name from the Louis Vuitton episode when Louis Vuitton joined the conglomerate with Moet Hennessy. When Alexander and LVMH acquired the Tiffany brand in 2021, he loosely stated that we cannot get so scared that we don't do anything exciting. Tiffany has been a part of pop culture for 185 years, and we plan to continue that forever. Whether with Beyonce or Korean pop star Rosé, they're really just pushing for Tiffany to continue to expand their reach, and with a variety of partnerships, they are on their way to do so. Individuals accredit their desire for Tiffany's to the inspirational imagery portrayed in music, movies, and television. A tried and tested business practice for the company is a sensation of exclusivity, and luxury. A large part of this luxury is being able to shop and experience the Tiffany & Co. stores in person. Part of the luxury is to indulge in the fantasy of such superfluity. This is demonstrated in a number of films and television moments. Gentlemen Prefer Blonde, The Music Number, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Sleepless in Seattle, Legally Blonde, Great Gatsby, Gossip Girl, Glee, yada yada. I've grown very fond of Marilyn Monroe since doing my episode on her last month. Would you mind indulging me on just one more tangent? Please. During the performance of Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend in the infamous film How to Marry a Millionaire, the song only mentions Tiffany's lyrically twice. Even so, and through the celebrity affiliations, Monroe was introduced as a credible embodiment of the Tiffany's brand essence. The musical number was permanently attached to her image, to that of alluring Tiffany diamonds for the target audience. Fun fact, did you know that Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend was supposed to have a completely different costume, but our boy Hugh Hefner ruined that for us? I told you I'm his biggest hater last episode. During this tangent, I'm going to repeat it. I'm Hugh Hefner's biggest hater. So during the preparation for the shoot, Hugh Hefner released his first edition of Playboy, with none other than Marilyn Monroe as the first edition cover. While the cover isn't overtly lewd in today's day and age, it was back then, and the photo usage wasn't approved by Marilyn and her team. And having Marilyn tied to the magazine was just a bad look all around. So the OG costume was a bejeweled body stocking giving showgirl. But the costume was swapped to detach her image from the scandal. Fair enough, girly. I definitely get it. I hate Hugh Hefner. That's that. Okay, so perhaps the most iconic representation of Tiffany's is the character Holly Golightly in the film adaptation of Breakfast at Tiffany's. This film introduced the world to New York as the infatuating setting upon which the Tiffany's diamond rested. It enabled the iconic Holly Golightly, Audrey Hepburn, to personify the feeling of being abroad in New York, demonstrating the seductive nature of a Tiffany store experience. New York was the influential cultural instigator that propelled Tiffany Co. from a consumer product to a cultural icon, circulating its iconography via celebrity affiliation and representation in music, film, literature, established its place in American heritage through historical contributions, pledged an association to New York by personifying the American dream. That was the longest run-on sentence I think I've ever contributed to, so let's move on. Speaking of New York, and another culturally iconic moment reminding the public that Tiffany & Co. is that girl, Sex and the City. During an episode of the show, without all the necessary backstory, Carrie wanted Charlotte to sell her Tiffany's engagement ring from her first marriage so that Carrie could purchase her apartment. Carrie got mad that Charlotte didn't jump at the opportunity to sell her tens of thousands of dollar ring to get Carrie out of a situation that she put herself in. Mind you, Samantha and Miranda had already offered to help her. And I do understand the principle. That's all well and good. But when you had an affair and allowed the man that you were cheating on to purchase your apartment, literally what did you expect? Anyway, she ended up guilting Charlotte into selling her ring, but girl, I am Carrie Bradshaw's biggest hater. My ranking, thanks for asking. Samantha, Charlotte, Miranda, everybody else, Carrie, big. I dislike Carrie, but I loathe big. Do you know that song in Wicked, What Is This Feeling? Loathing, unadulterated loathing. For your shoes, your face, your clothing. I loathe it all. Every little trait, however small. I loathe big. Anyway, Tiffany & Co. remains at the forefront of the luxury zeitgeist with its uncanny ability to read the public and staying committed to keeping it classy rather than making sharp pivots when trends do the same. Now, that's not to say they never produce trendy and with the time pieces. They simply wouldn't survive without trends. However, they adopt the with the times versions of the classics. During the 1920s, we saw more elegant pieces, modern to postmodern during the 30s and 50s, and they continue to possess a classic allure today. Trendy moments from Tiffany's include Tiffany & Co. and Nike Air Force collab. This broke the internet because it came with a Tiffany blue sneaker box. Oh, fun fact, the Tiffany & Co. color was trademarked in 1993, and Pantone collaborated with Tiffany & Co. in 2001 to create the color Tiffany 1835, in honor of the year that Tiffany was created, 1835. Okay, I lied, and I just hope that you can forgive me. It's actually Tiffany 1837, but you knew that because you were paying attention to this podcast episode. It is called Tiffany 1837 because Tiffany was founded in 1837. Okay, sorry about that. Let's get back to here. The shoes cost a whopping $400. Another collaboration was the jewelry brand partnered with Cat Street Tokyo. It is Japan's most profound hotspot, and it's dedicated to streetwear and youth culture. The capsule was available in ultra-limited quantities at a dedicated pop-up shop. Next one, they really love sports and leaning into sports. Spalding basketball and soccer balls, all co-branded with the douse of the iconic Tiffany blue. And then last but certainly not least, and also not last because I'm missing a few, Kendrick Lamar sported a one-of-a-kind crown of thorns of titanium and pave diamonds, a collaborative project between the rapper Dave Free and Tiffany Co. that took 10 months and 1,300 hours to produce. It is a non-purchasable crown, but it has been worn on numerous occasions from Dave Free and just his besties. Tiffany's has had its fair share of criticism from the public. In 2021, Beyoncé became the first Black woman and fourth person ever to wear the 147-year-old Tiffany diamond. Intense backlash followed the Tiffany diamond campaign because the diamond was mined in 1877 in South Africa. The Tiffany diamond is just a reminder of exploitation in Africa. The Tiffany Co. website now assures people that they follow the Kimberley certification process to ensure that they only get ethically sourced diamonds. Diamonds make up about 20% of Tiffany's sales, mostly in the form of engagement rings and wedding bands, with gold and silver jewelry bringing in a bulk of the profits. But Arnold says that Tiffany will, and this is kind of going off of their controversy, but Alexander Arnold says that Tiffany will continue with the entry-level silver jewelry. It is a big part of who we are and why we are liked. This is in response to inflation scares and price hikes, price gouging, if you will. But there is a charity called Tiffany Co. Foundation. It is helping restore abandoned mines in Africa. One of the biggest supporters. They are also one of the biggest supporters of the Peace Diamonds Restoration Initiative by Resolve. It is working to rehabilitate land destroyed by mining. And since 2000, Tiffany & Co. has given about $20 million in grants to conserve marine life and coral. This comes as they were selling coral jewelry. So they've since stopped that in 2004. But Tiffany & Co. is cemented in the foundation of American luxury. The jewelry house holds so much history, I surely missed a few points. But the people behind the brand are truly what the consumers are coming back for more. I am dazzled by the passion that each contributor holds for their craft. I will own something from Tiffany's in 2025, you mark my word, even if it's from the real. In the beginning, I mentioned that the company's history and learning about the people who built the company up impacted me in a way that I never imagined. What I mean by that is watching people my age, 25, be led down one path that might not necessarily be their dream plan A, but it is a sustainable plan A and a reliable plan A, and time and time again, they choose plan B, which was far more rewarding for them in the long run. It's inspiring in many ways because while I'm big chillin' with my plan A, there's always a little voice in my head that's like, are you sure we want to do this forever? Does this make us happy? Could we be happier? Yada, yada. But it's nice to know and nice to have examples of people who weren't necessarily protégés, George Kuntz not included in this, and they don't have a traditional education. George Kuntz is included in that part. in a space and still dominate their craft, which I find very beautiful. It's just inspirational, dare I say. I feel a little weird calling a bunch of rich white men inspirational, but Elsa Peretti and Paloma Picasso, a Nepo baby, I still find them in a way inspirational, and I find them amazing. I am dazzled by their passion, and let me have that, please. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please feel free to follow the podcast. We upload monthly, but I am kind of playing around with the upload times. You're definitely getting at least one episode every month, but I want to do more, and I'm kind of just figuring it out. If I am to just speak my truth for a sec, I don't really know. Feel free to follow the podcast, turn on notifications, give us a rating wherever you're listening. I'd prefer 5 stars, but you do what feels truthful in your body and yourself. I'd appreciate if you followed my personal links. Those are in the bio. Not the bio, but the episode notes. Gabrielle Forshee Gonzalez, Gabrielle Gonzalez. It's one of those names on every piece of social media. Figuring out whether I want to use my married name or my maiden name is really difficult because I like them both. But yeah, links are in the description. Please follow us. And I hope you enjoyed this month's batch of episodes. Okay, bye guys.